Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Historical Humans podcast. My name's Justin Woods, and I'm joined today by my fellow co-hosts, Colum Coleman and Aaron Gilpin, who has been mysteriously returned to us by the Pinkertons with the note saying, "Please never let him come back." So we're glad you're back, Aaron. But what happened with the Pinkerton?
Well, you see, I got a little too spicy with the memes.
Yeah.
And
We got a
then they
little
thought,
concerned when they sent the third pinky.
so we kind of, the meme where they would throw the kidnappers kidnap you and throw you out because you're too annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, we're doing that.
Well, speaking of being annoying, we're going to be going to Central America, where the Panama Canal is in Panama.
Van Halen, where are you?
Now,
Rest in peace.
if that musical chord annoys you, I apologize. It is arguably the most interesting thing we have to talk about here today.
I mean, the canal's interesting.
Fun fact, real quick, before we get into it, in my freshman year of high school, I was supposed to do some video talking about the Panama Canal, and I did a video of me playing the song Panama by Van Halen, but I had done my own chorus over it where we talked about the canal.
Yeah, and it's such a torturous experience that he left me to do the research on it, because oh boy.
Hey,
This thing was hard to put together, and that's not for a lack of facts. That's for a lack of any sort of cohesion for, well, the first half of anything happening in Panama, as we are going to have to show you.
Oh no. Oh no.
I mean,
no.
they put the French in charge the first time, so...
Well, that's because the French did the Suez.
Yep. Unfortunately, we don't get to start with the French. No. We have to roll the clock back on the Panama Canal to before anyone tried to build it, which means we get to talk about the Spanish in Central America.
That's never gone well.
Now, the Spanish surveyed Panama in the 16th century. And one of the first things they came to a conclusion of was, we need to dig a ditch through this country to get our boats through to the Pacific Ocean.
I mean,
they're
kind of
going around South America.
Okay, you're talking about going through one of the most dangerous sea crossings in all of history. That sea crossing between the Cape of Good Hope and Antarctica is one of the most treacherous and one of the most dangerous. Not to mention, it added over pretty much a year of travel time. So
Plus, you have to pass by Argentina. I mean, what are we, German?
Oh, a low blow, but every time, respectively. No, I understand their desire to just cut through Panama because, yeah, at the point in which they were looking, it wasn't that far from each other. Except, I just don't think they thought it through all that well because some areas were swamps and had lakes already. That was great.
Oh. See, the Spanish did think it through. In that they sit on it for 3 centuries not doing anything, but they proposed 2 routes. One through the hellscape of Panama, and another through Nicaragua.
Oh no.
And they basically just sit there for a couple hundred years going, gee, it would be nice if someone were to build this for us.
Oh, if only our French allies would just give us a hand.
Well, it depends on which time period we're talking.
Surprisingly, there's no takers until the U.S. enters the brink of civil war.
Oh no!
Because the Nicaragua route is abandoned when the United States decides in 1849 to build a railroad through Panama. Because the U.S. takes the attitude of like, if you guys aren't gonna take the boats through, then what we will do is we will send a boat from Florida and a boat from California to both ends of Panama, put everything on a train, and ship it across.
I mean, that was the next logical solution because it was a lot easier to flatten land into, cut and fill to build the railroad, but
the telegraph would have been built too already, right?
Along the railroad.
Yeah, so all they would have to do is do the telegraph from one end of California to the other end on Florida,
Yep.
send out the ships, and they'd roughly be there
Yeah.
roughly same time.
Yeah. Basically, the U.S. says screw this and does it themselves, but they build a railroad. That's not a canal. Uh, and what the U.S. does is they effectively condemn every other attempt to be in Panama and not in Nicaragua. Now, both sides had challenges, but Panama is going to turn into what is called a green hell over the next 50 or 60 years.
Define green hell.
A green hell is an area that is filled with life, almost all of which is hostile or lethal to the person in it. Um,
Right. Right.
yeah,
That's why I am terrified of the Amazon rainforest.
yeah. Basically, if you end up stranded on a tropical island that is full of life, you might be in a green hell if you don't have a way to deal with said wildlife.
Wait a minute. I think they made a survival game about this recently.
Yes, there's a survival game sharing the term.
Oh.
Yes, there is. Is a yeah, free advertising. We really got to start getting paid for this stuff. But yeah, it's gonna turn to a green hell. Thanks to a little flag of red, white, and blue. That's right. You're all thinking it. The French.
Oh no. Commander Lafayette would like
Wait.
to speak to you.
What period? French.
We are going to be dealing with late 19th century French.
Okay, so this is
This is post Napoleon. This is after they've had the pieces put back together twice.
yeah.
But the monarchy's back. Where's
No,
the First
this
Republic?
This
This
is
is not the First
No. This would have been like a democratic society.
The Second Republic?
This would have been the Third Republic.
Oh, okay.
You know,
This
I
would have
just
been
don't
the
want to
third.
mistake it with Star Wars.
No, this is the yes, this is the third. This would be Third Republic France. Um, the French attempt is led by Ferdinand de Lesseps. Now, Lesseps had recently completed the Suez Canal in Egypt,
Yeah.
and the success he had there and the national pride that it garnered him allowed him to win support to lead the attempt in Panama.
There's a bit of a difference, though.
No,
One's
the
in a-
cocky ego and the vain person in him. He beat the Suez Canal, and he goes, "I beat the Sinai Peninsula. I can beat the Panama, like."
Yeah. I can beat the Central Divide.
Yeah,
I guess
can
no one
dominate.
introduced him to malaria first.
You got to remember, Aaron, that this was like late 19th century Europe. This was peak, like, what is it, Golden Age?
It's like
Is that the era though?
it's like that Gilded Age
Gilded
kinda.
Age.
Gilded Age.
Where it was man versus environment, and this is right after post-industrialization, where people thought that they could dominate the landscape, that they could bend it to man's will. This is the era of ego and power and domination over the surrounding landscapes.
These are the people who these are the same people whose attitude crowned the Titanic Queen of the Seas and deemed her unsinkable.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
This is the start of that.
This is the attitude of the time that we are dealing with. And it's time for France to eat some humble pie, because
Finally.
Lesseps being on this project results in major financing from France, from French citizens, from just about every part of France. If it has the damn tricone over it, it is paying for this canal, and it's gonna pay. They perform the work under a private company, the Compagnie Universelle du Canal Interoceanique. Pardon my French. But basically, they form a special company under the French government, because corporate guilds are still a thing.
Right.
Um, to carry out this activity, and it is made possible due to concessions from the Colombian government to France.
This is a lovely reminder that Colombia at this time stretched beyond just South America and controlled a vast swath of land up into Nicaragua at this point.
I wonder if anyone we know was part of that kind of environment.
Oh no, you hear the ghost of Bolivar screaming in the distance.
No,
or a bunch of Scotsmen sailing. You hear a bunch of Scotsmen sailing because this is right near the Darien.
I'm just saying, this is like the time that Simon Bolivar was the last one before I got kidnapped.
Yes. We had a lot of we've danced around this area before on this show, and oh boy. But excuse me there. But yes, the effort to begin the Panama Canal occurs with 4 notable dates for the French. In 1881, they embark on this canal trench digging expedition, and by 1889, the company has collapsed.
Wow,
that didn't last very long.
However, in 1894, the company is reformed, ready to try it a second time with a new plan. They change what type of canal they're gonna dig, and they say, "We've got it. We figured out what went wrong."
What kind of? How many different type of canals are there?
So there is high lock, and there's high level and low level. Low level is essentially we dig down to ocean level and just dig a line straight across the continent at ocean level and let the water flood in.
Oh.
High level is where you do a series of locks and waterways that allow you to elevate different bays and ports to bring a ship up and then over an obstacle and then back down. It requires a lot of hydroelectric engineering and basically wasn't initially considered worthwhile.
Oh, I've seen locks like that now that I think about it up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Yeah, most canals are high locks. The U.S. uses a high lock system, I believe, to traverse all the Great Lakes. It's more common because if you put in that extra engineering, you get additional control over things like water flow, tides, currents. But you have that upfront cost of having to build these major machines.
That's true.
However, they come back to this plan in 1894. They have ceased all operations in 1898 because the company is once again bankrupt.
I mean, you're still talking something like 13, 14 years worth of development. They didn't do nothing in that time. They did do quite a bit of digging.
Oh yeah, but they may as well have not.
Yeah.
Because you see,
the Central American jungle really takes back stuff.
The United States takes a lot of credit for digging the canal, but a lot of the work had been done prior to their arrival.
Justin, the U.S. uses less than half. Some estimates give it as little as a quarter of what the French dug in their final canal.
Okay.
So the U.S. ignores most of the work here as, what are these people doing when the U.S. comes into it?
Okay.
And the reason for that is because the U.S. is going to do one of its best things, and that is copyright infringements. Because you see, in 1879, when talk of building these canals is first starting up in France, there is a engineer who is deeply familiar with Panama who gets completely ignored by the French. His name is Adolphe Godin de Lepinay, and Lepinay made a series of recommendations that the French just throw out the window. They just say, no. Lesseps knows better than you. He succeeded at Suez. Did you succeed at Suez? No, you weren't even there. Don't talk to me.
That's a very French attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, Lepinay's plan, which is what the U.S. will do in about 40 years, is there are these 2 lakes that eat up a good chunk of what the route could be through Panama. And if you just build dams on them, you can flood them regularly and basically carry ships through the lakes.
Ah, the prideful Frenchman.
Yeah. You can then that after that point, the only two bits of work you would need is connecting these two lakes through the Continental Divide, which is a series of highland mountainous region in the middle of Panama. It's just elevated terrain. You just have to burrow through this elevated terrain. And from there, it's a simple matter of building a few locks to slowly lower the water and the ships back down to sea level and release them into the ocean.
Yeah, that sounds a lot easier than just
Yeah.
digging one big ditch.
He's ignored because, once again, Lesseps says, no, 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 we can just build a simple canal, low level, straight through.
Yeah, we just dig a hole right through.
It's the same as the Sinai Peninsula. Desert, jungle, marsh, pish posh.
It's all flattish.
Hey, what's malaria?
Yellow fever.
Yep. Yeah. The route that is proposed by Lesseps that he chooses to go with manages to pass through both the wetland marshes of Panama in its jungles and the high mountains of the Continental Divide, meaning he has to deal with both taming mountains that are prone to landslides and swamps that are prone to flooding.
Water.
Again, you think he would put a little extra thought to it, but no, he's just like, let's go.
The best part of that is it really is just let's go, because there's no unified plan. The people making decisions are not talking to the people on the ground. The people on the ground don't know what's going on. 3 or 4 different people halfway through this project have different ideas of where the canal is going to go. It's like when the U.S. builds a transcontinental railroad, and there are times when people from both companies that are going to meet in the middle drive past each other and just look, like, start getting into fights because it's supposed to meet up in Salt Lake, and what are you doing putting the railroad out here?
How hard can it be to dig a ditch in the Panamanian jungle?
I mean, it's already low.
Right, like,
The water will
just dig
just
the
fill in
hole.
and
How
we'll be
hard
good.
could it be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, we did
What
it
do you
in
mean,
Africa.
malaria? What's that?
Oh, we don't even get to malaria next because they don't plan for the environment at all. Their digging equipment is too light to deal with the heavy marshy terrain that it's being put in. It doesn't have the power. Their cranes don't have the power to dig through stuff. The backhoes don't have the strength.
They've essentially brought a gardening trowel to a mud pit.
Oh,
Yeah,
we've all been
they
there.
don't have the means to do this. And yes, the whole time, yellow fever and malaria is killing them by the tenfold.
My sir, we lost 100 more laborers today. Unfortunate. Bring more.
Yeah.
When's the next shipment from Africa?
It's
I mean-
Ireland at this point.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. Wait, forgot, we don't do that anymore.
Oh,
Shit.
When's
do
the
believe
O'Connell
they-
ship getting here?
Oh boy.
I do believe they might do something similar to what the U.S. expressly does, which is import laborers from the Caribbean islands.
Oh.
Hey, Haitians, I hear
Oh,
you're
no.
free.
Would you like to
work?
not be?
Yeah. Yeah, very much a time to die thing. The French, over 12 years of work, lose 20,000 people to malaria.
20,000. Jeez.
Yeah, you would think they were fighting a war.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, that's like almost an entire regiment they just lost there.
Yeah.
20,000 malaria. God.
So, the malaria got more men today. How many of their men did you get? None.
The best part is that's just the number for the ones who died to illness. The ones who died to industrial accidents, hostile wildlife, mudslides are not included in this number.
Oh no.
I did not find a total number because everyone harps on the malaria because that was the number one killer.
I guess the French didn't have OSHA.
No, they did not.
And yet these were supposed to be the enlightened people.
They didn't have a lot of things, like apparently common sense.
And air conditioning.
Yeah, I will say, 20,000.
No, wait,
men,
the French still don't have air conditioning. What am I talking about?
Yeah, 20. I will say they lost 20,000 men before they quit. I gotta say that's gotta be the bravest stand of the French since Napoleon.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Do you think they have monuments to the workers they lost? No, because you got to remember, a lot of these workers probably weren't actually French citizens. They were probably from Algeria. They were probably from French Cambodia. They were probably from the colonial holdings.
Yeah.
The policy that we're going to see with America and is also seen here with France is that you have a skilled upper class of management in terms of lawyers, architects, and engineers that are from the home country. And then you have, up to 100,000 workers who are just people imported from wherever was nearby that you didn't really have to pay for.
So basically, it's how every U.S. corporation kind of operates, but they slap an American flag on it because that's where the company's based.
It's an American operation that employs 90% people from abroad in low-paying, low-labor jobs with low rights, and you have a few high-paying Americans, and it's an American corporation.
Yep.
Looking at you.
But then they still say the Panama Canal was built by American blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, no, it is American. They spilled the blood of others.
Yep.
Well.
Yeah. So yeah, the
American foreign policy has not changed in the last 120 years.
Yeah.
So baby.
Yeah. Freedom. It's imported to this project in 1902.
The old Spooner Act.
Yep, the Spooner Act, which authorizes the U.S. to purchase the project under one key condition. Colombia still controls Panama at this point. It's still a part of Colombian sovereign territory. So the purchase of the canal construction and the canal company and all of the associated projects involved is contingent on the United States of America reaching a peaceable and amicable agreement with the nation of Colombia, who owns the land on which they are attempting to dig.
Hey, Justin, you want to give a refresher of the Monroe Doctrine real quick? And see how that's going to apply here?
It's not going to apply here. However, the Monroe Doctrine basically prevents any foreign powers from intervening with American politics, whether north or south, and from foreign it's European. But here, I know exactly what America does because that brought back a wave of memories because the United States, in their good faith negotiations with Colombia, fall apart, and America does the most American thing they could do, and they support an insurgency in Panama and helps Panama break away and become its own independent country, and then negotiates with Panama the rights to the canal.
Yep.
Where have I seen this episode before? Oh wait, this is actually the first episode of this doing it.
You got this almost right, Justin. Because they negotiate. They in 1903. The negotiations with Colombia break down, so the U.S. Backs a revolution in Panama to declare it a sovereign country, and then negotiates with France the rights to control Panama.
What? Why would they?
Because we're buying from a French company.
Oh right, yeah, the canal itself is French.
We're buying the canal. We're buying the canal company and the canal rights from the French company. Why would we need to consult the government of Panama, especially after their government only exists because our guns are propping them up?
Well, a lot of that does have to do with the taxes and importation fees of actually going through the locks. And this is something that I don't know if you brush on very much later on, but one of the key reasons why the United States controlled the locks and had power over it was it gave them favorable fees and terms when going through the locks, especially because the majority of the traffic was American.
Yeah, that will come up in some of the final treaties that settle down on Panama after the canal is built. But for right now, that doesn't really come up because we're still trying to build the damn river.
Over the river and through the jungle.
Now, in February of 1904, the Panama Canal Zone is created and work begins on the Panama Canal. Now, the United States had wanted the canal in the area since 1835, which was when the United States started building that railroad that they do in 1849. It starts becoming operational. They build the canal under a joint French and American management. French engineer Philippe Jean Bunau Varilla.
You did not
an
just
American...
say Jean as Jean.
Jean.
Philippe Jean Bunau Varilla.
Yeah. And American lawyer William Nelson Cromwell.
Oh, good old Cromwell boy.
That's right, Cromwell, baby. God save us
We
all.
never get rid of them.
And my favorite part about this is the canal had political support provided by everyone's favorite United States president, Teddy Roosevelt, and Senator
It wasn't his best moments.
Senator Mark Hanna, who was a lifetime and childhood friend of John D. Rockefeller.
Just call him corporate tycoon puppet.
Yeah, I just want to know how he got into politics then. If your best friend was John D. Rockefeller,
I'm just saying, robber baron, fitting title.
Yeah, both the trust buster and a robber baron are involved in this. Oh, this will be fun.
What is this? A crossover episode?
Oh my God! The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and our enemies are the French.
Yeah. Anyway, Teddy Roosevelt gets the title of Father of the Canal because his support is very public, it's very vocal. He really believes that it is America's sovereign destiny to tame these rough and savage wilds. Because this is freaking Rough Rider Teddy over here.
The old bull
Mr. Manifest Destiny himself.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that was the motto of the Manifest Destiny.
That is Theodore Roosevelt to a T. Fun fact, he actually doesn't really get involved in building it. Most of the work is done under President Taft, 1909-1913.
Good for Taft.
Yeah.
He needed something besides the bathtub.
Yeah. When you're... Unfortunately, that is all he's known for.
Do you know
but he doesn't really do anything else.
No, he did. He's the only other U.S. president who has served on the Supreme Court and was Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I really didn't know that.
Congratulations, you only knew the bathtub fact.
Yeah, because that's literally all anyone cares about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Harding appointed him. I'm pretty sure he made a point to say, like, I'll only accept the appointment if I was made the Chief Justice, because he appointed some of the other justices on the bench and made it a huge point of, like, I appointed them, I should be above them, and, you know, yeah. He strong-armed his way into the Chief Justice role.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Well,
let's stick with the bathtub fact.
Yeah.
He was fat.
Egos aside, the Americans go for a high level canal with multiple locks, like the later French attempt, ignoring most of the French work that gets done along the way. They choose to forge their own path. In so doing, they come up against two key issues. Issue number one: there's different water levels at each end of the canal. The Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans are not even,
Yeah, who'd have thought?
which causes a little bit of trouble with balancing one connected canal between them, just because a stormy day on one side could easily flood over into the other and vice versa.
Well, and I think the total height difference between one end to the other is like 300 feet.
Yeah. So this is not a small amount of water they have to manage.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, did you know that the Pacific Ocean portion of the Panama Canal is actually further east than the entrance?
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Because Panama's like an S.
Oh, right.
And then
Yeah.
they basically did it like right in this section here, which cuts across.
Yeah. It's also not a perfectly straight line, the canal. You do turn. The other key issue is in the form of the Chagres River. This is a river that is prone to extreme and erratic flooding. Much of the canal follows along the river's course, and flooding from this river could easily wipe out the canal.
Not ideal.
And so what happens is the project becomes deadlocked from 1904 to 1906 on how do we solve these two issues. It becomes so bad that President Theodore Roosevelt, as sitting president,
Oh no.
marches over and directly intervenes on the matter. He picks one guy's plan, that of Chief Engineer John Frank Stevens, and says, this is how we are going to do it. Takes that plan to Congress, Congress signs on it, and work begins.
He just really said,
Yep.
this one.
Yep.
We're going with it.
Now, Stevens here had done a sneaky little thing. He had copy-pasted Lepanay's plan from 1879 and just whited out the name and put his on top.
Classic.
Because it turns out that Lepanay had actually good ideas, and seeing as how Lepanay and Stevens are the two engineers familiar with Panama, it kind of makes sense that they would agree on what to do.
Yeah, good ideas.
I would certainly hope they would agree.
Just like great minds think alike. Totally not stealing your idea.
Yep. Now, this plan did something interesting. It created the largest artificial lake in the world at the time. The title has since been usurped, but when it was created, Lake Gatun, which was formed by putting a massive dam across the Chagres, was the largest man-made body of water on Earth. And it would encompass 20 miles worth of canal route at just sailing across this artificial lake.
You know, to do that with an earthen dam is impressive.
Yep. It's made of earth and dirt. Mostly because said dirt kept falling and killing all the workers in constant mudslides, so they might as well put it somewhere.
They just I would like to think that the dam wasn't even intentional. It was just from the cut, and they're like, where do we put all this earth? Because they excavated so much. It's like, I'll just dump it here. We'll hopefully it'll stop falling on us then.
Yep. The dam is so massive that the Chagres, which is prone to very violent flooding, is incapable of spilling over the top of the dam, even at its worst known floods. So it's the American version of bigger is better to the point of overkill in taming this river.
I mean, full send or no send, I guess.
Yeah.
It contains 17 million cubic meters of dirt.
That's a lot of dirt.
Yeah,
Man.
like you'd have to play Minecraft for decades to get that much dirt.
Some people have.
I know.
It's unfortunate what keeps happening with them, though.
Yep. Now, the United States of America also had the benefit of learning from what happened to the French. And American medical teams were determined not to suffer the high turnover rates that the French had to deal with, because employing new personnel that frequency is kind of a bitch. So they did a lot of extensive efforts with mosquito nets and early type vaccinations and some more interesting methods.
So they actually employed vaccines and, safety nets. Those are beautiful.
Yeah.
Mosquito nets.
Yeah. Which managed to reduce the casualty cost for the Americans to only some 5,600 people.
Hey, and Colin, when we went to our field school, you made fun of my bug net, yet I did not catch malaria.
I don't think we were in a malaria region in like the Carolinas, especially
Look, that doesn't matter.
Inland Carolinas.
That doesn't matter.
We were in the mountains.
I didn't catch nothing.
It could have gotten Rocky Mountain fever.
I didn't get no ticks either, which I was really happy about.
Yeah, that was fun.
As far as you know.
Yeah. Anyway, now this is 5,600 dead out of a work crew of 40,000.
Okay.
So,
it's better than
like
20K.
5%, right?
Yeah. This is about a 12% kill rate for the disease here, which is a lot better than what would have been posted, which would have been about 50% if we kept the French numbers.
Well,
yeah.
Never send the French to do an American job.
Yep.
Well, I guess in this case, American.
Yeah. The next big step was the Culebra Cut, also known as the Gillard Cut, which is named after a man named Gillard, who was deeply involved in this part of the project. It's a very treacherous trench that required the use of steam shovels and railroads to cut through. Effectively, they had to just pound the dirt in order to rip it up, and they had to bring in specialized industrial machinery, which steam shovels they look like something out of like a horror adaptation of Watership Down. It is just giant. It's nightmarish. It looks quite apocalyptic, and it's just designed to, as a massive steam-powered coal and wood-fed engine, just rip dirt out.
Wow.
Like
the epitome of steampunk.
It's one of the one of the first examples of like a true industrial mining apparatus too. It's what a lot of mining machines are designed after now.
Yeah.
Oh,
interesting. This thing is designed to like blast through anything. Dirt, stone, bedrock, it does not matter. To this machine. The area of the cut was full of unstable soil that is prone to landslides, and a lot of people died to both dynamite accidents and mudslides, sometimes one causing the other.
Oof.
Oh yeah.
Because keep in mind, this is the early 20th century. The standard practice for construction, archaeology, a general light inquiry is to throw a stick of explosives at it and see what happens.
I mean, you see if it sticks.
That is how Charles Darwin discovered the extinction of the dodo bird.
With dynamite?
That was a joke. And whenever we see something at this time, to learn what it is, we throw a stick of dynamite.
Yeah, that's how I discovered Troy.
Yep.
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 Guys, look, I just made penicillin. How did you do it? I threw a stick of dynamite.
A stick of dynamite at that fungus over there.
Why'd you do that? I was angry.
So you remember how we said there was that many cubic feet of soil in
like 17 million, give or take.
Yeah, 17 million in the dam.
Yeah.
Well, in order to make the cut, they had to get 96 million cubic yards of earth out of Panama.
So
that is where the dirt came from for most.
In the field, they call it cut and fill. You cut from one end and you fill at the other. So this is just good old use of fill.
Yep.
Phil of the
And
future.
Yep. And then on August 15th, 1914, it's finally over. The canal is opened, and it is hailed as the greatest engineering feat ever attempted.
And then World War One happens.
Yep. Yep. Literally wonderful timing.
We did it. We have achieved
Um,
peak humanity. Look what humans can do when we put our mind to it. And now watch us do it with war machines beyond our
yeah.
wildest
Just,
imagination.
just give like the canal's
Come
open.
with me.
Send the Pacific Fleet.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
right.
Come with me and you'll see a world of pure colonialization.
All right. Dark Willy Wonka aside here. We're not dealing with the English at all.
Dark Willy Wonka.
No, this is prime
whole thing was
America
dark.
colonialism.
Listen, we're not dealing with the British at all. You can keep your Willy Wonka songs to yourself.
This is Teddy Roosevelt.
Yep. Because now we get to talk about the really fun part. I do hope you stuck around with us because this is going to be the part where we really get to go ham on stuff. Is the canal's international status? Because the Americans have been building this after buying it from the French and starting a coup against the Colombians. So, what exactly is the world supposed to make of what's going on down here?
I mean, like, I assume economic benefit of like stuff getting shipped faster.
They're all literally just looking at trying to get faster shipping routes. That was 90% of the reason America was discovered, was for a faster shipping lane. Every country was behind this to some degree.
Are you telling me Christopher Columbus is the reason now we have 2 day shipping with Amazon?
Yes.
And that's all this was for?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything
It was
ties back.
600 years in the making.
Yep.
The Pony Express, Christopher Columbus, the railroad, Aaron, it all leads to Amazon. And
It
this
all
is not
leads to
sponsored.
consumerism.
Yes.
Yes. Jeff Bezos has been alive for millennia, plotting his ascension.
That's the conspiracy theory we're going to start peddling.
We accidentally hit a lot of conspiracy theories, so that would be a good one to start.
We did?
Fun.
Oh, yeah.
Don't look at our different graphics, Aaron. No, your time with the Pinkertons, we changed.
Things change, Aaron. You gotta
No.
open your eyes.
Are we in the darkest timeline?
Anyway, the first hallmark of the canal status in the international community is the Hey Bunau Varilla Treaty of 1903. Now, I'm just going to start off by saying that Panama hated this treaty, and not just because Panama wasn't invited to the negotiating table.
I think they have a lot of reason to hate this treaty.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And that's why it gets
first-
amended.
First things first is negotiated by Frenchman Philippe Jean Bunau Varilla.
That's the first
the
problem.
The same
The
man
French.
the same man who is going to be overseeing this project as an engineer when the Americans take over. Now, Bunau Varilla here admits after the treaty is signed that he was willing to give the U.S. any concession in Panama they wanted, so long as they would take over the project.
Damn, he was just desperate to get rid of it.
Oh my God.
The treaty is conducted between the United States and France.
Problem number 2.
Also the
With-
French.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the treaty does several things. Number 1, it forms the canal zone and grants the U.S. total and absolute sovereignty over that zone. It is effectively a colony of the United States. Anywhere in the canal zone is officially U.S. soil, according to this piece of paper.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You can see why that might be a problem.
I don't see any problem.
It's just
with that.
American territory in the middle that cuts an
Yeah.
entire country in half.
Yep.
And
The
controls
entirety.
a world important shipping route.
Yep. Panama is bisected by a U.S. colony, and they had no say in it.
I told you, peak U.S. colonialism, and you guys laughed at me.
Yeah, it's gonna get better.
Oh,
Panama,
I don't know.
During this treaty, for those who might be wondering, Panama was spoken for by the French. The French,
504.
despite having no association beyond a failed attempt to dig a trench through the country, were decreed to be the rightful diplomatic community to speak for Panama. They were deemed as its rightful masters
Uh,
insofar as negotiating this treaty was concerned.
again,
Yeah, I know. Like,
I
why
would
would
like
you
to
choose the
know.
Spanish?
I mean, why would they choose themselves?
Because the French are the ones selling shit to the Americans. They're literally getting handed like a bailout.
They're basically the ultimate used car salesman, because they took their failed defeat, their problem, they repackaged it, repainted it, slapped a new sticker on it, and said, "Hey, America, you know how you've been eyeing that canal for a while now. Well, boy, howdy, what do I have here? Oh, I got this good old canal. We're halfway through. You just got to pick up where we left off." And America, once they got into it, they bought it, turned over the keys, realized half this is useless. I can't use half of it.
I just kind of want to know what the Panamanians kind of were thinking. Like, hey, we would like a seat at the table. The French is like, shh.
The Panamanians were thinking, we have become a conquered people without even firing a shot. That's what they were thinking.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Now, Theodore Roosevelt, as the U.S. president overseeing this treaty, promised that the United States would not treat Panama like a colony. However, Panama, specifically its canal zone, which contained the capital city, was to be governed by a governor appointed by the President of the United States. The laws of the canal zone were to be judged by magistrates appointed by said governor. And the United States stationed military units along the entirety of the canal to defend it for the United States. Military occupancy, anyone?
It sounds like colonies without.
It sounds like colonialism.
Wanting to call it a
with extra
colony.
Step, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it's not a colony. It's a territory.
Yeah. America doesn't like the word colony. We call them unincorporated territories. Or Puerto Rico, if you're being mean.
Or Puerto Rico.
Yeah, we feel bad for them.
51st state, anyone?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we really like the slogan 50 nifty United States.
No.
Yeah. Additionally, this treaty has a number of, shall we say, worse provisions. These provisions will get rolled back, but it's important to note that they were in the original treaty and were around for between 30 and 50 years. The first is that the U.S. has the right to annex any adjacent territory to the canal zone as it deemed fit. Basically, if the United States decided that they just happened to need an extra 10 miles south, that 10 miles was now legally the U.S.'s because they said we wanted it.
Yeah, again, how is this not a colonialism?
Because they didn't call it a colony.
Because they're not declaring all of Panama their colony. They're just saying that if they ever decide to, any territory within Panama can legally become theirs, provided it shares at least like 1 inch of border with the existing canal zone.
Yeah, it basically is a straw man argument, though, where you can basically say, okay, yeah, I need more land to build the canal out, and then you can keep stretching the field goal. There is no sunset clause. There is no end clause. That's why you were saying it's an endless provision.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, we discovered we suddenly needed to move this way, so that's not in the canal zone. No problem.
This is now the canal zone, too.
Yep. It grants U.S. control over the ports at the end of the canal. The canal begins in Colon and ends in Panama City, one of which you might recognize as the capital of the country that is supposed to be sovereign. Imagine being a nation and not having sovereignty in your own capital city.
Yeah.
It's kind of iffy there. Yeah.
Not the greatest one.
I mean, this would be like trying to govern England from the embassy in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Eh,
Well, at least there's not other provisions, right?
Yep. Oh, it also gave the U.S. the right to suppress the wages of the Panamanian workers in the Canal Zone.
Oh,
God
lovely.
damn it.
It now the wording around this is very tricky, but from what I understand of what happens later, is that the U.S. got to treat the Canal Zone as a separate economic zone from the rest of the world, and thus could choose to set wages as it saw fit without giving any real thought to the cost of living in the Canal Zone or the surrounding areas. Um, this leads to a major wage discrepancy between the workers who are Panamanian and the workers who are American, because the American workers receive compensation as though they are in America.
Yeah.
The Panamanians receive compensation as though they exist in the Canal Zone.
God damn.
Which means that they are getting paid like pennies under pennies.
This is really a truly American experience, even wage theft.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Now, there are two treaties that rectify these things, one in 1936 and one in 1955. These treaties give improved wages to the Panamanian workers. They give Panamanian control over Colon and Panama City. And the U.S. relinquishes its right to annex territory adjacent to the canal.
Okay.
It says, we agree that these cities are Panamanian cities. We agree that the territory that borders the canal zone is Panamanian and not uninhabited. Thus, the U.S. cannot expand the canal zone any further. Panama still not happy. They continue to press for control of the canal. They want total control of the canal zone. They see it as a part of Panama. It should be their territory.
I mean, they're not wrong to think it's part of Panama.
Yeah, it is quite literally a good part of Panama. I don't blame them.
Yeah. Greedy bastards, I know.
How could they?
Yeah.
Don't they know that they're starving U.S. oil or U.S. robber barons?
Yeah.
Yep.
God.
That's been like, for those of you listening at home, that has been the saying in our personal clique is robber barons over the past like week. So every time you've heard it, I hope you've been taking shots.
It's been it's been an on and off thing that's been going on for a while. Just like negotiating with Panama, because it seems to be something that happens every 20 years.
Oh no.
As all these pushes for sovereignty and, Panama having, the right to exist and things like that.
Why wouldn't Panama want sovereignty?
Because it's an American asset, Aaron.
Yeah.
You gotta protect American national interests. And that's the messed up part, and something that I don't think you quite highlighted is one of the main arguments that the United States made for a very, very long time is they needed to maintain control over it to help maintain American sovereignty and to help project I have the hiccups now, and help project U.S. power, because the Panama Canal allowed, for the first time ever, really, the connection between the Pacific and Atlantic fleets of the U.S. Navy. This was really at the height of American naval projection and power.
Yeah, and for those of you wondering, that was the ghost of James Monroe attempting to strangle Justin. He spoke out against American sovereignty in the Americas.
Hey,
Monroe knew he can't come and get me.
Hey, the U.S. still protects the neighbors and all the countries out here. That's part of why they had the Panama Canal, so they can enforce the doctrine.
Yeah.
I don't see any U-boats going into Panama. You're welcome.
Because they're in Argentina.
Yep. So after another 20-some years from the 1955 treaty, there is the 1977 Panama Canal Treaty, which is arguably the most controversial treaty that was ever put before the Congress of the United States.
Which means
because
it was a good one.
to this day, it holds the record for longest debate over a treaty.
Which means it was filibustered forever.
Yeah. Now it's called
Oh boy.
the reason for this is it's called the 1977 treaty because all the provisions were negotiated out in 1977. It is not signed until 1979.
They filibustered for that long?
Well, no, probably not that long, but they definitely got sent back for revisions and had a lot of earmarks. And there's a lot of things that tend to go on behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was a long process and a long period of time, and this was also the Carter administration, so they really they dragged their feet on a lot of bills and a lot of passages to help hinder his administration.
Yeah.
You
The
got a raw deal.
The self-sabotage goes long here. The signatories are President Jimmy Carter of the U.S. and General Omar Herrera of Panama. The treaty itself abolished the Canal Zone. It terminated all prior treaties between the U.S. and Panama concerning the canal, and it recognized Panama as the territorial sovereign of the former Canal Zone.
Nice.
Meaning that basically Panama gets this back. Everything else need not apply. It's as just, cut and dried as it can be.
Clean slate. Everything before.
Except for a couple of things they put into this treaty. Concession number 1. The U.S. had the right to continue managing the canal for a 20-year transition period.
That happens.
This transition period would last from October 1st, 1979 to December 31st, 1999.
So, another historical precedent was the treaty to hand over Hong Kong, and that was a 50-year transition period. So, by that comparison, this is actually fairly quick.
Yep. It also authorized the United States to construct a third lane of the canal during this time, because by the point we get to 1977, traffic is enough, and we've learned enough that we've connected 2 lanes through the canal zone, and a third lane of traffic, much like an expansion on your highway, was deemed necessary. The U.S., despite agreeing that they had the right to do this and probably should, never got around to building it.
Which I think Panama just, within the past 20 years, expanded one of the 2 lanes.
Yeah, Panama opted for an expansion in lieu of constructing a third lane, and has recently completed the project, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah, as you say, last 20 years, Justin, they've only had control of it since the year 2000. Of course, it's the last 20 years.
Yeah, but I think they started in 07 or 08, and I think it completed in 17 or 18.
Yeah, it is recent, which is always fun. Now, one of the interesting things, and a big part of why the Panama Canal Treaty was so longly debated, was because it was a joint treaty. It had to be co-signed alongside a second treaty called the Neutrality Treaty. This treaty had no termination date, in which the U.S. and Panama agreed to maintain total neutrality in the canal.
Understood, yeah.
Like international waters kind of neutrality?
Yeah, they both would protect the waters and make sure it stayed neutral, that neither side would become partisan in it.
Okay.
Yeah, like a Switzerland kind of thing. What it meant was that tolls had to be non-discriminatory. You could toll by tonnage, you could toll by whatever, but it had to be the same for every country. There is no discount for someone who never colonized us.
The only exception and priority that they were given were to their warships. Both U.S. and Panamanian were given priority passage through there.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, does not mean toll-free passage. It just means priority 1, your gate gets open first. Which I just love the concept of a U.S. destroyer on its way to battle having to stop at a little toll booth. And deal with back when toll booths had people.
Yeah.
Getting out a 20 and the guy going, I don't have change for that.
Or having to make sure that they have Panamanian currency and not U.S. dollars. Just some weird annoying occurrence.
Yeah.
Oh no, you got to go back to the currency exchange that was 3 locks back.
Can't I just give you? Can't you just send the U.S. government an invoice? Nope, it's cash only.
Yep. Yep. Now, another thing with the neutrality treaty that was a big change from how the U.S. did things was that it mandated that only Panama may maintain military bases along the in Panama. No other country can have a military base in Panama. Only the Panamanian military.
This is yet another example coming from the Suez, where there are countries along the what is it, the Red Sea there specifically, that have a lot of military bases, especially in Yemen right now, that are attacking merchant ships. So this is definitely an important clause.
Yeah. However, recognizing that Panama is a small country, the U.S. also included a provision that said the United States has the right to use military intervention to keep the canal open by force.
Hmm.
The U.S. would invoke this once during an intervention in 1989 and 1990. It is the only time it has been invoked, and
That's
despite,
Reagan.
Yeah.
Go
and,
figure.
And despite the dispatching of U.S. warships, the canal was still closed for a day.
Halting business.
Yeah.
How dare they? Don't they know the robber barons need their money?
The economy!
American corporations have, of course, never recovered from this tragedy and will not for centuries.
Of course.
Which is why we're instituting a brand new price hike. So, we're doing so in an effort to try and maintain a competitive edge.
Yep.
I worked in corporate America way too long.
Yeah.
Now, there is one fun thing. The neutrality treaty has an exemption in it. Despite everything we just said, there's one exemption to the neutrality treaty, and it's a very fun one.
The one that authorized Panama?
Yeah. See, there is something called the Thompson-Urrutia Treaty, which was signed between Panama and Colombia in 1914. Now, Panama has dissolved all treaties involving the U.S. and the Panama Canal. Now, that's most of them, but it's not this one, because the U.S. is not involved in it. It's Panama and Colombia.
Yeah.
And in this treaty, 11 years after Panama exists, when the canal is about to come online for the first time, when it's about to open up, the country of Colombia agrees to acknowledge the sovereign existence of Panama in return for free trade through the canal. Basically arguing that when the canal was first proposed, you were part of our territory, therefore we should get in on that our ships don't get taxed deal.
I mean, it makes sense, and it's a, it sounds like a big concession, but it also isn't at the same time.
And in return, we will do you the kindness of acknowledging that your people are in fact real and that you do in fact exist.
Okay, but when the alternative is an armed conflict or even vast warfare, I think being able and saying, hey, if you just give us free passage, we'll call it even, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
and
the
I think
alternative
Panama understands that versus
Yeah.
the alternative.
Yeah, no, it's like people are. It's a pair of sweet nothings to basically avoid becoming the Korean Peninsula.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because it's been at the point that the Thompson-Urrutia Treaty is signed. It's been 11 years. Colombia has not had control of Panama for 11 years. They need to acknowledge that. Panama needs biggest neighbor to acknowledge that.
Well, and that's just and that's the biggest thing there is the acknowledgement. What makes a new country, what makes an independent nation is acknowledgement from its peers.
Yeah. So Colombia is the exception to paying the tolls in the Panama Canal, which means that if you are going through the Panama Canal, fly a Colombian flag
or register a Colombian vessel.
Yeah.
Just
or an American, I guess.
Well, no, you'd still have to pay the fee.
Oh, that's right.
America agree, it's only an American military vessel, which gets us into a whole different class of crime if we try to pass ourselves off as that.
But I think that's a great note for us to end today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.